Welcome to Cliff Notes, the podcast where business meets inspiration and strategy meets balance. I'm Brandon Clifford, CEO of Business Alliance Inc., entrepreneur, investor, and your guide through the world of business, franchising, and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, an inspiring franchisee, or just someone looking for actionable advice to take your career to the next level, Cliff Notes is here for you. Join me as we break down the complexities of business and life into bite-sized, actionable insights. This is Cliff Notes, your shortcut to success. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Cliff Notes. My name is Brandon Clifford. I'm your host. Excited to be here today, and you get a little bit of a different episode for us today. Really excited to be talking about all things branding and marketing, especially for franchises, franchisors, franchisees, and kind of like what makes a brand stick. So a lot of you guys don't know, but I don't look this good, right? So I have team people behind us, right, who kind of puts all this together, and we actually have the ringleader of everything. I guess the producer of our show, I'll say business owner, soon to be mother,
Oh,
Nat Marie, with us today, coming from San Antonio. Hi, Nat. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. I love working with BAI. We've had such a good partnership for the past, I don't know, year and a half or
Yes.
maybe even longer.
Yes,
So
yes. No, I'm
thank you.
excited to have you today. Let you share your brain with our audience a little bit here. Nat's going to be a guest on the podcast here probably once a month or so that we can give you guys some real actionable tools that you can take to apply directly to your business and help you grow your brand, right? And so I know we have a lot to cover today, so we want to dive sort of right into it. But the goal today is to talk about how to build a cohesive brand,
Mhm.
and create some strategic marketing for franchisors, right? Because I know at the end of the day, like your brand is everything, and that's what you stand upon. And Gary Vee says at the end of all things, the only thing that will be left is the brand, right? So
Mhm.
your brand is super important. And so we want to give you, when you become a franchisor and you start literally giving away a piece of yourself, right? If your brand is you, how do you keep it cohesive without it, falling apart? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a brand?
No, you're fine. I mean, I feel like branding is one of those blanket terms, right?
Mhm.
So the way that I like to explain it to people is if your business was a person, the brand is like its personality. It's really the personality behind your business. And this is how you create human connection. This is the emotions, the experiences, kind of those expectations tied with your company. So we all like to shop
Mhm.
based on that human drive, that, kind of human connection. And that's really what branding is building for your
Yeah.
business.
And that's why it's so important, right? Because it's like, your personality, you can't be like this way one time and then this and that, because people are like, well, who is that guy? Right? Or girl, right? So you don't want your brand to be like, looking like this on one day and then something else. You want when someone sees that logo, they need to know right away who you are and what you stand for, right?
Consistency is gonna build that trust. The more that you can have trust in your business, that's the work that the branding is doing for you. So
Hmm.
I would tell people, like, get your branding set up really, really well, and then be consistent. Be
Hmm.
consistent with every touch point, every experience, because you want people to be able to trust they know what they can expect when they come to your business.
Yeah, no, and I love that, and especially in franchise. I mean, consistency can be threatened probably even in a franchise.
Yeah,
Right? I mean, there's
definitely.
like why is it even more so important for a franchise? Do you believe?
I mean, I think for a franchise, like, you could have locations all throughout the country. You could sometimes when I travel, I wanna go to some sort of chain or franchise because of the familiarity. So, building that relationship and that experience across all touch point is so important. Keeping it uniform, but also bringing in some of that local flair
Mhm.
too, I think is a really good way to kinda start with that consistency.
Yeah, no, and that is a challenge, no, for sure for franchisors. I mean, like staying consistent, but then also not just blanketly saying like, "Oh, well, this is our brand, and I don't care that people like to wear cowboy hats in San Antonio. We're based out of New Hampshire, so we're
Yeah,
gonna do it this way."
see it
But how
sometimes.
do you do that with a brand, especially like a national chain, a franchisor who wants to respect that local entrepreneur, that business owner who put up their skin and and money to launch and invest in the brand? So how can you kind of stay consistent, but also adapt to maybe new trends or colloquial stuff in different regions?
I mean, I would say most of your branding needs to be uniform across all locations, and you should be having strategic marketing conversations about where the locality comes in. You're also going to want to stay on top of the marketing trends because things get outdated quick. Even something from 2022 is completely outdated now. So have a team or have people internally that can work on some of that marketing and then helping your franchisees. I mean, not everyone knows marketing, not
Mhm.
everyone is naturally an expert, but if they feel like they're getting that support from you in that direction of like, hey, here's where you can add your local flair, here's the trends that we've put time into knowing that they're going to work. I think those are some of the key elements. It really is starting at the top, making sure you're a good leader in this field.
Yes, leading by example. I mean, like, it's like if you're a franchise company and you tell your franchisees that you need to be posting on social media, but you're
Mhm.
not posting on social media, right? Like that's a red flag, right? So leading by example for sure, and making sure that your team follows all the guidelines. At the corporate level, if you want your franchisees to follow it, you better be following it as well. So,
Exactly.
okay, let's I guess kind of take a little bit of a step forward and talk about not just like the idea of consistency and branding, but because I think we kind of explained that you need to be consistent. But what are like kind of the elements to make a brand cohesive, right? Because that's a little bit different than consistency, right? So, because you could be consistently posting something ugly or
Yeah.
outdated, right? That's so consistent, right? So, what about being kind of, I guess, a cohesive brand? What are the elements a brand might need? I guess that's
Yeah.
the marketing term for it, right? Brand elements.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think step one, build those brand elements, build that cohesive. You want to set up yourself with a really good brand and then make sure you're consistent with it. So, having a strong brand guide. Your logo is the most important piece of marketing, but your brand guide is where we're going to make sure that you have more than just a logo to work with.
Hmm.
Visually with your tone of voice, it's like your playbook. So that would have colors, fonts, graphics, anything that kind of falls into that theme.
Hmm.
You also want to build a really good brand voice. Think about who you are, going back to that personality thing. If my brand is this personality, I'm going to be funny and lighthearted. If my brand's this personality, I'm going to be a little bit more calming and serious. And so think about that brand voice too. We kinda talked about this with the brand guide, your visual toolkit, your visual identity, it's different. If you're brick and mortar, it's signage. If you have packaging involved in your business, you need to think about that. If you definitely social media templates, web design, anything with a digital presence. I like to sit down with my clients and kind of build their wish list of like, okay, for your business, these are the marketing materials that we need to invest and put, some branding into because you're
Hmm.
going to consistently use them.
Yeah, and then I mean, when it comes to your brand guide, you mentioned I think it was a good analogy too, talking about like your it's like your playbook, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
that's not something that should just sit on a shelf and collect dust either. I mean, you need to sometimes rethink your playbook if and whatnot. How often should a brand, in your opinion, look at redoing their brand guide or at least refreshing it?
Mhm. I would say that their core elements, like your logo, your colors, those fonts, do feel comfortable that you've got a really good strategy, you've worked with a professional and you've set that up well. You don't need to mess with those too much. You're going to try to update your logo and things like that as technology elevates. So every
Hmm.
couple years.
Hmm.
But then the smaller pieces, seasonal graphics, social media templates, those should be looked at quarterly, probably. I mean, it's best if you have some sort of marketing partnership where they can look at that every month or continue to grow with you. But if you look at some of the big brands, Starbucks, they
Hmm.
have a very solid core brand,
Yeah.
but they are always creating new experiences. They
Hmm.
don't feel outdated. They don't feel like a brand that came from years and years ago. Same with Coca-Cola.
What's cool about some of those legacy brands too is actually if you do go back and look over time, their original logos, their older logos, they
Mhm.
actually are different, but they're very, very similar in a way.
Yeah.
So, like, you want your brand to evolve, and continue to grow. You don't have to feel like it's stuck in this box from your
Mhm.
brand guide. You don't want to look like you're from 1985 all the time, but you can become the 2005, the 2025 version of yourself. who was born in 1985 or whatever, So again, it kind of comes back to what is your brand? It's your personality. It's who your company
Yeah.
and your
It's
organization
gonna
is.
grow. I mean,
Mhm.
I love seeing I just went to the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco because I was up
That's
there for
very
a little.
Texas.
Yes, I know. I'm very tapping into my local, but it
That's
was it
awesome.
was really cool to see, like, the
Mhm,
advertising from back in the '80s to
mhm,
now.
mhm,
Some of the cool, like, things that they're even doing around the country, around the world,
mhm.
but they have that
Sure.
core value, core heritage, core visual identity, and then they're just going from there.
Mhm.
So, with some people, maybe you do need a rebrand. Maybe you didn't set yourself up well, and not to say everybody's business grows and changes in ways we can't even predict, and you're
Mhm.
like, "Go back and just rebrand this." But a lot of people need to just jump in and, "Okay, how can I refresh this? How
Yes.
can I grow this?"
Yeah, and not like just out with the old, in with the new, create even like a process or a progression. I mean, I remember when we did our rebrand, BAI,
Mhm.
we're a company started in 1991, things were different in
Yeah.
1991. And the
Mhm.
logo, we had trademarks, we had a lot of history that we had like,
Mhm.
well, we can't just blow this up. Like there's actually equity there, right? And so how do
Yeah.
we evolve it and go from that B to this B, the one that, oh, you see right here, and the same the brand colors, like how do we bridge it, and so we put together a plan where we actually used the old logo and added in some of the new colors and the imagery. And so then we got there, and it was a process over time. That's something you want to get with a professional that, who can help you do that. And then,
Yeah.
I guess kind of dive a little bit more into that experience, having the brand, because it's more than just what it looks like. You also want to make sure that your logo and your colors tie to a customer experience as well.
Mhm.
Correct? Is that something that you consider when you're talking about branding
Oh,
like this?
absolutely. I mean, I think step 1 is to look at brand archetypes and target audience and your
Mm,
tone of all of that. I call it like the pre-homework that you need to sit down because what I tell people too is when we're working on your rebrand or your brand refresh, we need to think about your core, who you are, what's not going to change, but then even your vision for the future too. You don't want something that's a band-aid that's just going to work now.
mhm,
You want something that's long lasting. I mean, even with BAI, when we were working on your rebrand, we're like, okay, what's the story behind this? How is this feeling professional but motivational, and
mhm,
then it's something that will last a long time because there was a lot of strategy put into it.
mhm. Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to franchise, it's even a little bit more complicated because you have a few different archetypes, customers, as the franchisor, you're attracting franchisees, right? So you're looking for business owners who aren't
Mhm.
necessarily always your end user, right? I mean, if you're a senior care franchise, your franchisee does not utilize your services, right? But if you're a hair salon owner, I might own a hair salon someday. I don't utilize those services. So that's one type of messaging. And then you have your end users, people who do want hair salons or blow dry services or nails or whatever, food service, a burger, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
I mean, I guess and then I guess to add one other element to it, this is gonna be a complicated question, hopefully you're following. There's then franchisees in the middle who are taking those assets and deploying them in their local market, like the local flair, the local influence, all those things. So, how can a franchisor, with all these moving parts, really maintain their brand consistency when it comes to this different messaging?
Mhm,
What
definitely.
kind of recommendations would you make?
I would say that you need to have communication, have training with your franchisees so they know how to apply the brand. One, you want to show them, hey, look, we invest in marketing, we invest in a good brand because that's going to make them trust that this business is going to do well.
Mhm,
But then also, hey, look, we provide ongoing support for you. You don't need to do this all alone. You're not going to be just thrown to the wolves. Having good branding for all audiences is good, but
mhm,
showing them you're doing that work, making sure all of your marketing is in a good library, it's easy to access. There's brand guides, there's templates, there's direction there, there's SOPs, there's ways where it is set up so that you can jump in and do the social media and follow
mhm,
a system or do
mhm.
email marketing and follow their system.
Yeah. Ease of
Uh-huh.
access is huge. Like, that's such a great point. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen that with franchisors time and time again where they have all this branding, they have all this stuff, but then it's locked in a vault somewhere,
Mhm.
and the franchisee just wants to create a flyer. And because they can't figure out how to edit a PDF or they don't have Adobe, like they're
Yeah.
not they haven't been trained properly. They
I
just
mean, how
go to Microsoft
stressful.
Word, they use clip art, right? And so it's like, well, you have to make it easy, you have to make it accessible. Another mistake I see too is it's being a little bit too guarded or too restricted with the type of pieces. I believe it's
Mhm.
actually the franchisor's obligation to come up with more ideas,
Yeah.
and come up with ideas when it comes to your logo and your brand and customer acquisition than your franchisees would ever use. Like
Mhm.
you come, like if not, they're going to go out.
How frustrating is it when you sit down, you know you have to do some marketing, and then you're caught with some tech issue all
Hmm.
day? It
Hmm.
takes up half your afternoon, you know? So I think setting it up so it's easy for them, showing them that you're gonna provide ongoing support, and showing them that branding and marketing is a big deal for you because
Hmm.
with the way the world is moving, it is becoming more and more of an expectation, more and more important, and I think franchisees will trust, "Okay, I wanna invest in their brand, I
Hmm.
wanna open their business," because they're going to keep up with the times.
So that starts in your franchise recruitment process, guys. Like if
Mhm.
you're a franchise or you're listening to this right now, I mean, when you're recruiting new franchisees to come and join your network and join your system, the way in which your sales professionals, your franchise development reps are putting forth your company's messaging, that's how they're going. It's just like raising
Yeah.
a child in a way. I mean, these are business owners for sure, right? But like you're setting the tone, you're setting the example. This is their first experience with the brand. And then that's
Mhm.
the type of experience they're going to deliver to their customers someday in some way, shape, or form, right? So it's important that you set that tone from the very beginning if you want to stay consistent. So
Yeah,
cool. So we
absolutely.
touched upon this a little bit, and you already kind of hinted, about I guess rebrands and keeping brands fresh and exciting. Anything else about like staying relevant that you wanted to talk about, in terms of your marketing?
Yeah, I mean, we kinda talked about a couple of those examples, but when you get yourself set up, what can you keep doing? Is it
Mhm.
seasonal campaigns? Is it, how can you celebrate a new product launch or a new menu item or, whatever your industry is? Don't just I think sometimes people put so much work into growing the business, but then they don't show it off.
Mhm.
I think that's a big thing, have some marketing strategies around the things that are growing in your business.
Mhm.
Uh Think about how you can keep, updating and tweaking over time, whether that's definitely in social media and in a digital world. I think that's something that's really huge right now too. You wanna stay relevant by staying on top of those marketing trends.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I guess, like, kind of, dovetails well into what I was thinking. I mean, like, you're talking about marketing trends, right? So much has been changing when it comes
Oh,
to
yeah.
technology. It's like so I actually heard AI, all its impacts, right? And I heard a stat the other day. Someone was actually having a conversation with Chat GPT. They asked like, how old are you or something like that to the computer. And they were like, oh, well, I don't age, quote unquote, like a person does.
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to time. They were like, well, if you had to equate it to time with all the learning, all the computing that you're doing, how much are you going to age tonight? And ChatGPT told that person that they were gonna age in human years if you had to equate it that way, the way that humans equate
Uh,
it to dogs, or like so long, you expect about
definitely.
12 years today. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like these generative computers, it's exponential, right? So like they're learning what we learn as humans in 12 years a day, and it
Yeah.
could even be more than that, I guess, is what, depending on how much firepower you have behind the computer, right? So
Mhm.
all that being said, there's a lot of impacts and a lot of things that are happening. We're seeing a lot of different trends come out there. What are your big marketing trends that you think franchisors and business owners need to pay attention to here in 2025?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how the world is gonna be keep moving faster and faster with technology. Like, the way that a trend how long it lasts and how quickly it's updating is it's so much quicker than even a few years ago. So, what I see for this year, because I look into this stuff all the time, this is what I nerd out about, is People are going back to long form content a little bit more.
Mhm.
So, videos, you see a lot more carousel posts, you see more storytelling. Specifically in social media, that's going to be huge because I think people are actually really searching for more of a human connection, or just more of like a personal connection with brands. With that being said, AI is a really good tool that we should be using too. That's kind of another trend. How can we use AI? There are so many ways you can set up AI to help get your workload done faster. But with what you're putting out there, you still want to make sure that you've got some sort of human element to it. You want to make sure it doesn't feel um, like, okay, someone threw that in ChatGPT and then there we
Mhm.
go. I think pushing yourself with long form content, pushing yourself with using AI as a tool, but then still using that human connection in what you're putting out there, showing your face, showing real people. That's been a trend for a while and I don't think it's going away. Videos and things like that.
Mhm.
And even with that, pop culture collaborations, influencer marketing, we've seen that, and I think that's gonna continue. People are gonna trust recommendations more than ads. So
Mhm.
maybe we need to start thinking about how can we have an influencer come on and market your brand? What sort of programs could we be setting up so that your customers are posting about this? Because even though we're in such a digital world, the human connection is gonna stand out more. And then the last thing is I think using your data for data-driven marketing, analyze what is working, double down on it.
Mhm.
Some trends, some quick, TikTok trends and videos might not even be worth the energy for your industry. You can
Mhm.
study, okay, this is something that's great for us to tap into, and this is something it's going to be around for a week. Let's just skip it. So
Mhm. Mhm.
the data is going to help you figure that out.
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, if you're not looking at your data, you're not reviewing, and you're just kind of continuing to think that, what you did 5 years ago is going to work today, you're going to get less than the dust mite.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this has been a really great conversation, and I knew we were going to cover a lot of things. Let's kind of get towards wrapping things up a little bit because I know we're getting close to time. And like I said, guys, at the beginning of this conversation, Nat's going to be back probably once a month or so, where we're going to have these focus conversations about branding and marketing tips and tricks we'll come up with. If you guys have ideas or questions, feel free to put them in the chat or leave a comment. Shoot us a message if it's something that you want us to specifically bridge and cover, whether it has to do with like I said, brand design, how to find your archetype, those sorts of things. That's all the stuff we're going to be covering in the coming months. But so I guess to kind of wrap it up, Nat, what are some practical takeaways that our listeners, if you're a franchisor or even a franchisee or even just a business owner or an aspiring business owner, right, that you want to, that they can take, to kind of get their, step up their marketing game? What would it be? Where should they start?
Yeah. I mean, get your brand guide locked in. This is so important. This is the North Star. This is the foundation of your business. And if you haven't looked at your brand guide in a year or 2 years or more, please look at it again. This is something we should probably review and keep continuing to look at every year at least. I would look at ways that you can offer marketing support to your franchisees. So sit down, what systems do you have in place? And then after this conversation, what is, gnawing at you? Okay, I need to be providing more in social media, or I really need to help people with their brick and mortar setup. But start to think about how you can support your franchisees more. I would also start to monitor your analytics and think about how you can start to adapt from there. So pay attention to what's been working recently and what's not. So you can go through and really do an audit of how to move forward with more of the strategy work. So
Mhm.
if you need help, invest in marketing professionals,
Mhm.
social media, branding, website, email, whatever it is, that investment is huge. I do this for a living and I see businesses completely transform when they get the help. I mean, think about how much BAI has been putting out. Like
Mhm.
it has
Mhm.
been really cool to work with you and see that. So
Yeah. No, and I mean, if you're a franchisor listening to this is what we do, right? So, Nat, I mean, I guess, so what can you do, to help, through BAI, because you're an extension of us, right? Like, how can BAI help someone who is listening to this and maybe is like, oh, there's so many things I have to do. I just don't have the time. I need help. So,
yeah.
what can we do to help?
No, there are a ton of things that we can do. I mean, myself and BAI, we're partnering together and kind of offering marketing services now. So you can find that on the website. You can kind of read through like a list of services, but reach out and ask if there's something specific you need to. But we could work on branding, content creation, social media, email marketing, digital marketing. There's some like
Mhm.
web elements that we could partner up and work with too. So any brick and mortar packaging, those
Mhm.
are big ones. A lot of people invest in a logo, but then they don't have their actual experience and space designed. So I rattled off a bunch,
Yeah.
but pretty
Love
much
it. You
anything
love
in
it.
that
Yeah.
world.
There's businessallianceinc.com/marketing services, or just go to
Yeah.
businessallianceinc.com. You
Mhm.
can see the marketing
Slash
pages on
marketing.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll get you connected directly to Nat, and it's something that, I'll also help you out with. And yeah, we'd love to help continue to build your brand. So if you're looking for those services, please reach out. And this has been great. Thank you so much for your time and for being on here, sharing your expertise. Looking forward to another episode. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but that's the note for the day. And yeah, like I said, if in the future more of these marketing conversations, put in comments in the chat. Let us know how we can help you. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Nat. Have a good one. Bye.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Business Alliance Insights. I hope you're walking away with some valuable insights to help grow and strengthen your business. If you're looking to connect with other business leaders, franchisors, franchisees, brokers, or even just looking to explore more tools to scale your business, be sure to get connected to our BAI network and check out FranLink, our exclusive social media platform built solely for our members. You can learn more about it and everything Business Alliance Inc. has to offer by visiting businessallianceinc.com. Again, that's businessallianceinc.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with other business leaders who are ready to take their businesses, their brands to the next level.